And we're back for episode 149 of Trek Live. Guessing each other's favorite one-off ships. How you doing, Dan?
Yep. Doing great. A little bit of nerves with this topic, but it should be a good time. So.
Yeah, for sure. This is sort of the wrap up of our guessing each other's favorite ship month. We've done hero ships, we've done recurring ships. Now we're doing one-off ships. So more obscure choices, much longer shot in terms of getting each other's lists accurate. I think I have very little faith that I have maybe more than one. If I'm really, really lucky, maybe I got two. We'll see.
I know I don't have one.
It's tough. I mean, this is one of those topics that I feel like when I first started thinking about it, I was kind of scrounging. I was like, wait a minute, how many are there? Like, because there's so many. Like, Star Trek is so kind of notorious for making use of old models and like getting their money's worth out of things and not letting things be one-offs. But the more I really delved into the topic and looked at episode lists and kind of racked my brain over what's out there, there are a good number, and now I have I have my 5 that I feel pretty confident about, although it if I did this list again tomorrow, I'm sure it would shake out differently. But I have a little honorable mention group that I was able to kind of like cobble together, and on top of that, our lists for my guess for yours and my actual lists don't have, I don't think, any crossover. So I have 10 different things written down on this piece of paper next to me for my own, and then your guesses, and then I have some honorable mentions. So I was able to come up with a bunch of different things that were feasible options. So yeah, looking forward to it. But before we get into all that, as we always do, where are you on your rewatch? Deep Space Nine Season 2. I think the last episode you talked about was Blood Oath, which is a classic. Klingon episode.
I have only watched one episode. I've been bad this week, which I think is the Maquis Part 1, I want to say.
Yeah.
Kind of starting that, Maquis, Badlands,
setting up Voyager
story arc with kind of setting that up. Like Bill said, I think there's some really good stuff in it, though. I like that Cisco's putting a command decision that there's no right answer. This is a no-win scenario, kind of, I think, and I love when we get things like this, so it should be fun. I'm excited for part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. The Maquis is definitely an interesting outing. It's one of those things that if you watch it the way I watch it, with the chronological like series overlapping, air date order kind of thing, you have all 3 shows sort of triangulating around this idea with the Maquis. You have the Maquis 2-parter in Deep Space Nine, sort of introducing the concept of the Maquis, dealing with the Bajorans and the Cardassians, and colonies on the borders of newly renegotiated areas of space and all that stuff. Sort of the birth of that idea. And then at the very end of TNG, you have like Preemptive Strike and Journey's End, where you get a little bit more fleshed out there with these border colonies that are in a lot of strife, dealing with Cardassians and the fallout of the creation of the Maquis. And then shortly after, you get Caretaker with the intro, the pilot of Voyager, which really capitalizes and really makes use of that story concept. So it's maybe the thing in Star Trek's history that is like most demonstrative of like multiple shows happening at once, and everybody, all 3 of these things, all kind of pulling from the same basket and building off of each other. Story threads that cross series and not just like seasons within a single show. So really an interesting point in Star Trek's history, for sure. I watched a big chunk of season 5. I've been cruising. The last time we did this, I had stopped at Unification Parts 1 and 2, which is definitely, I think, a good thing to be fresh on right now. We have Unification Part 3 coming up on Thursday with Discovery. And then this weekend I picked up with A Matter of Time, and I stopped yesterday at Cause and Effect. So pretty good chunk of episodes. I'm more than halfway through season 5 of TNG. Should finish that up over the holiday weekend coming up. Lots of great episodes. I really like Cause and Effect's one of my favorite episodes of The Next Generation. It's so kind of simple in its concept, and it's pretty much the same act repeated 4 times, just slightly modified as they slowly piece together their dilemma.
Which is kind of a fun sci-fi type deal.
Yeah. It's a classic Star Trek science fiction crazy concept episode. Really well directed by Jonathan Frakes, giving each iteration of this loop a little different flavor. Gates McFadden's actually really good in it. I always kind of forget, if I've been away from the episode for a while, that sort of our key into the sort of deja vu feeling of have we done this before is seeing it through Dr. Crusher's eyes. You see her kind of each act kind of get a little closer to figuring out something's off here. She's pretty strong in it. We're kind of experiencing it through her. Love that one. I really love I love Conundrum, which is the episode where they get hit with a memory wiping probe, and for the first chunk of the episode, nobody knows what their job is, and you get weird, like really weird things. Like Worf thinks he's the captain because he's got the sash, and he's like sitting in the ready room, and Picard's like sitting up at the helm. Riker's flirting with Ro, who he was just fighting with and arguing about like, not following policy, and you have this weird new character who's like a plant, acting as the first officer, trying to push the Enterprise into like, getting involved in a war, basically. It's just a fun, like kind of another kind of simple story, but I've always really liked it. Good weird combination of episodes in this stretch. This is like definitely the TNG kind of firing on all cylinders, and definitely taking full advantage of that Swiss Army knife idea that we always talk about with, different kinds of episodes, lighter stuff, heavier stuff, political commentary, social commentary kinds of episodes, just crazy science fiction episodes that don't really have much to say on that level, like Cause and Effect. Just the whole spectrum is on display in that run. So really enjoying it. Looking forward to getting into season 6, and with that, getting closer to getting into overlap territory with watching TNG and DS9 at the same time. So in a couple weekends, I think I'll be there. A.K.A. Mamel shares, who's in the room. She watched 4, Discovery's Die Trying, which was last week's episode. The Ascent, Blaze of Glory, 2 episodes from season 5 of DS9, and Voyager's One Small Step, which is a classic.
It's a good run.
Love that episode.
Good run of episodes.
Yeah,
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
all good stuff. So I think that'll do it for our rewatch recap. I think we should just get right into the topic at hand, and I'm going to switch over to our handy dandy leaderboard, or our not leaderboard, but our chart of choices, I guess, that we'll fill in as we go. So as we always do, we're going to do our guesses first. We're going to see what we think of each other's lists ahead of time. Talk about why. Well, actually, we don't usually talk too much about like why we guessed until we get through the full deal. We'll do each other's guesses, then we'll do our real lists, and then we'll just talk about it kind of as a whole and cover everything that we've talked about. And I'm sure we'll end up talking about a whole host of ships as we kind of get through the whole thing. So let's do your guesses for me first. Starting with 5, working our way up to 1.
Get this over with here.
No shame in getting them wrong here. This is such a wide spectrum of possibilities, and neither one of us has a whole lot of confidence in the accuracy of our guest lists.
So my number 5 for you is the Hive ships from Beyond.
Okay.
I think that's I just remember even me, I kind of like the Hive idea, and I really thought that was cool that they brought that into Beyond. Okay.
Okay.
My number 4 guess for you I'm not sure if it is recurring or not. This is kind of a little bit of a gray area. Is the Stargazer?
It's an interesting.
There's a model in the ready room. Does that count? Like I don't know.
Hey.
That's my number 4 guess for you. My number 3 is the Phoenix, the ship that's made out of the nuclear missile silo, and then the nacelles come out. I really like that ship.
First contact. Yeah.
And I think that would be something that you'd pick. I'm gonna go with the Equinox for my number 2 for you. I know you're big on the Nova class, which I think that's what that is. I know there's been a lot of different Nova class names, but specifically, maybe the Equinox hopefully is a one-off ship.
I believe it is.
And then another Voyager pick is the Krenim time ship.
Ooh, okay.
For your number 1. So
Okay.
no confidence in this. A little bit of background on my picks. My one-offs to me are typically 1 or 2 episodes. And 2-parters to me are just one long episode. Same with movies. That's 1 episode, but it's just a longer episode. So yeah, no confidence there.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you definitely.
Here's my thing. If I don't, I know I probably won't get any, but I at least named some cool ships, so we get to talk about some cool ships.
For sure, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
It's just a vehicle to get us to talk about these different concepts. You definitely, I'll give you credit. You did get one of them, but I'll be honest and say you mentioned quite a few that either I gave serious consideration to, and maybe a couple that I guessed for you on your list.
Oh, okay.
So we're definitely on the same wavelength as far as like what kinds of ships we're thinking about.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. So there's one. There's one on here that isn't on my list, but would definitely be my toughest cut. It was on my list until like right before I closed my notebook yesterday. I made like one last change, and that's the thing that I took off and put into that like number 6, no doubt about it, honorable mention, clearly the last cut. So I'll give you like 1.5, which is very respectable given
nice
what we're doing here. So real quick, I'll do my guesses for you and see where we are. I started off with number 5, one of our crossovers here, second mention for the Krenim time ship.
Okay.
From Year of Hell from Voyager.
Yep.
And one of the common threads here I'll kind of reveal is I did find myself, and it's not just you. I mean, I know you're such a Voyager guy, but the more I thought about it, there were a lot of one-off kinds of options from Voyager that I found myself kind of.
I tried to stay away from Voyager, but it's
right.
but somehow they made it on my list because you're right. There are a lot of ships that were like hard to not keep off my list. So
number 4 is a total long shot and probably not anywhere close to accurate, but I went with the USS Pasteur, which is the medical frigate that Dr. Crusher, Captain Beverly Picard, is in command of in the alternate future and All Good Things. I feel like I remember talking about that when we talked about All Good Things at some point over the years. So I took a shot and threw it on there. I did put on the list the Nova class / USS Equinox on your list, which I do love.
Yeah.
Number 2, I put, this is a little bit of a cheat because I feel like when we were talking about this topic, you may have thrown this name out there, and it might have been a red herring, it might have been a completely, meaningless choice just to kind of throw something out there, but I went with Spock's jellyfish ship from Star Trek 2009.
Yeah.
I'm just putting jellyfish ship, which I hope people
Yeah.
on glance know what that is. If they know, if they're
They can hear it,
they know.
I think, when they see it. Yeah.
And for your number one, I went with, this is where I'm thinking I probably went off, because I was thinking Voyager, was the USS Prometheus from Message in a Bottle. The separating crazy concept, prototype ship from the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
In Voyager's Message in a Bottle. So I have 3 Federation ships. What's that? 3 from Voyager, which I'm thinking is too heavy. A TNG and a Kelvin timeline. You had, for me, a Kelvin timeline, some TNG, a TNG movie, and a couple of Voyager choices. So a lot of Voyager so far, on the guesses at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And AKA Mamel says she chose for her list another ship from All Good Things, which I have a feeling I know what it is, if I had to guess. I think it's a... would it perhaps be a one-off variation on an old ship, AKA Mamel? If it is, then that's definitely a cool choice. You want to do your actual list?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We could do it. So my number 5, you got it right. It's Crown Time Ship.
No way.
I think that's such a cool. It's obviously a cool like sci-fi concept, but it just looks cool too. It looks futuristic. Big fan.
Absolutely.
Again, this is just help me out if this is not technically a ship or something like that. Let me know. It's a Doomsday Machine.
Okay.
I think wasn't it like this alien species built this thing in a war and then it like went. That's to me is like an iconic, like I said at the top of the show, when I think of one off, what comes to mind first, it's definitely the Doomsday Machine. My number 3 is a Kelvin timeline, but it is not the jellyfish.
Okay.
It's Nero's mining ship, which the
Narada.
The Narada, yeah. I love that. It's big, it's menacing, it's dark, it feels kind of right of the time. The drill thing coming down, I think that's really cool.
For sure.
My number 2, right? I'm on 2.
Yeah, 2.
You got it right too. Or no. It's on your guess. It's the Prometheus. Such a cool, futuristic. When I think of a prototype, this kind of comes to mind. This kind of cool. I don't know. Again, sci-fi really fits the show concept.
Yeah.
Couldn't leave it off my list. And my number 1 might surprise some people.
Okay.
It is from Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Bajoran Solar Sailor. I think that's such a cool. It's so just out of left field. Like it's so just out of. It's not like any other ship in Star Trek, I think, and it's so cool looking, and I really like that ship. So I that's my number 1.
Okay, all right.
I does it have a name? That's
No.
my Solar Sailor. Was what from memory, but I haven't seen that episode in like a long time. I just remember that ship being so freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, I don't think it has like an actual formal name.
Like a designation.
I don't believe so. I haven't seen the episode in a while either, but
yeah,
I definitely gave it some serious thought. Like it was 100% on my mind, as we'll talk about in a second here. And I agree with everything you said.
yeah.
So the one I got right, it looks. I got 2 right. I got 2.
You got two, right?
I
Yep.
got two, and I can tell you
Yeah.
the Doomsday Machine I had on your list until last night. Like at the very end last night, one of the last things I changed
Okay.
was I took the Doomsday Machine off, and I put shamefully the Pasteur off on. Like I swapped Doomsday Machine with Pasteur. For some reason I had.
I do really like. I remember having that conversation. I
Yeah.
do really like that ship. Yeah.
That's what ends
Yeah.
up happening with these. A lot of times I find myself like racking my brain thinking about old conversations, sometimes from years ago, and I'm like, did we talk about like
Yeah.
all good things? And in that conversation, I feel like I remember you talking about like the upgrade of the Daedalus class, sort of being like, I feel like we had that conversation at some point.
That might be my like 7 or 8.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I really do. Thinking about it now, and yeah, I do really like that. Yeah.
All right. You got, I don't know if I already said this, but you got one of mine right. Did I already tell you that? I think
Yes.
I did. Okay.
Yeah, you told me that.
All right.
Yeah.
But you got quite a few of my honorable mentions and things that were very much just in the conversation. So I'll get into mine so we have everything up on the screen, and then we'll kind of just bounce around and talk about sort of everything we see.
Yeah, and I do have a bunch of honorable mentions too.
Okay.
I think would be fun to talk about as well.
For sure. Good. So my number 5 is maybe the first ever mention of something that originates in Lower Decks in any of these topics, which is the USS Titan.
What?
Yeah, right? Like
The Titan made the list.
Titan made the list.
Nice.
Absolutely. One of my favorite
Which
moments.
it's mentioned in the novels, right?
It is. It is.
But technically that is not canon, so
Correct.
I mean,
that doesn't count.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So technically it's a one-off. Yeah,
a one-off.
technically nice pick. That's cool.
Right?
Yeah, the Titan, such a cool design, and I love that they use that resource of the literary universe to bring that into canon. It's just freaking awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I think all that makes it really cool. The using the design that came from the novel verse, and not only bringing it on screen, but having it show up in like a heroic, save the day kind of situation with Captain Riker in the captain's chair and First Officer or Counselor Troy, sitting right next to him. Yeah, I had to go with it. So my number 4 is another Kelvin Timeline pick, but it's a unique one from everything else we've talked about. We have the Narada mentioned on a list. You guessed the Hive ships from Beyond. Right movie, wrong ship. I went with the USS Franklin.
I was between the Franklin and the Hive ship, and I just remember, man, dang it. Well,
yeah, I mean,
I get a quarter point for that, maybe.
you get a
No,
quarter
just
point.
kidding.
You're on the right track with the movie.
Yeah.
I had to go with Franklin, and a lot of it actually
Yeah.
dovetails back to seeing the trailer for Beyond for the first time. I feel like one of the coolest pre-hype promotional moments in anything I've ever seen in Star Trek was the shot of the Franklin in the trailer, like the first glimpse of it, because it looks so like an NX-01 kind of offshoot, and it's clearly like a homage to that, and almost first time you see it, it's like, is that an NX class ship? And that was sort of the first indicator that Beyond was gonna be so embracing of Enterprise, really, and like the Star Trek continuity and stuff that they could play with the continuity of Star Trek being in the Kelvin timeline. So that was a memorable first glimpse in the trailer, and I love it in the movie. It's cool bridge, cool, I love the way it's used in the movie. The launch off the cliff is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Really, a lot of really good stuff surrounding the USS Franklin. My number 3 goes all the way back to the very beginning of TOS, and it is the US. It's not the USS. It's the Thessarius, which is the Balok's ship in the Corbomite maneuver.
Yeah.
The giant spherical Christmas light thing that shows up and dwarfs the Enterprise, and I feel like that is sort of, I watched the show in air date order, most of the time, which means Corbomite Maneuver is like number 10. It's a little further down, but in the production line of Star Trek, it's the first episode that they produced, not the pilots. So with all the pieces in place, the concept sort of settled down. They do the Corbomite Maneuver, and I feel like if that's sort of your introduction to Star Trek, seeing the Enterprise, which is this big, impressive thing that we're living on, get completely dwarfed by this gigantic, huge thing. And it's such a different concept, such a different kind of ship. I think that's a big moment, and one of the iconic images in Star Trek is that rear shot of the Enterprise with the sphere coming in.
Dang, that's a good pick.
It's one of the things that popped into my mind when I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Pretty early on, so I toyed with taking it off and replacing it with some of these other deep cut honorable mentions, but
I thought you were gonna mention the motion picture a little bit.
Could be. Not over yet.
Okay.
I did go. Your number 2 is my number. Your number 1 is my number 2. The Bajoran Solar Sailor. I completely agree with everything you said. I think it's one of the coolest ideas that they ever had. I love.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense that. I just totally buy that Sisko would be so into it. Like, it's such a retro, such a throwback, such a different thing, such a back to basics, simple thing. I love the way it's used in the story as a connection between. It allows for the connection between Sisko and Jake and Ben. Really, really strong episode, and just such a different, radical idea. Idea. It's one of a kind, and it's also tied to like Bajoran history and the Cardassians. Mm-hmm. Like they do a lot with it, and I feel like they build a lot of backstory to it, and it's not just like some graphic on a view screen or something like that. We get to know the ship a little bit. We get to know what it's about, what the significance of it is, and even the design of the interior. It's so like bulky and rickety with literally turning screws to get the sails to work right. Like everything about it is great, and it's a really strong episode as well.
Yeah, I think Sisto is a character that likes kind of those classic things. Like, he's big on baseball, which is, I guess, technically a classic thing
for sure
in his time. But he came from Utopia Planitia. He's a dock worker. He appreciates the ships too. So I like that kind of play on that as well. So, and the relationship between Jake and him, just such a kind of a dad move to rent a sailboat or
exactly.
I guess a solar sailor and do something like this. So
right, exactly. And the one that you got just right is my number 1, and it is the Phoenix from Star Trek: First Contact.
Oh yes, I got one.
You got one. Had to go with the Phoenix. I think the kind of similarly to the Bajoran Solar Sailor. It's not just the design of it. It's not just the episode that it's in or the movie that it's in. It's the way that they build the history of it. The fact that it's like this nuclear warhead that was repurposed, coming out of World War III. The simplicity of the design, but it's gorgeous, beautiful when it takes off, when they launch it and then the cells come out. It's a pretty iconic
that's cool.
Moment in Star Trek, and it is the thing that sets the entire thing into motion. It's the spark for all of it. And I'm a sucker for, and maybe it's kind of become apparent as we've done some of these lists, I tend to like lean into like historical significant, things that have a heavy hand in shaping the overall, story of Star Trek. If it has that, it's a big. It definitely becomes a significant thing that ends up on my list.
The question mark for me with the Phoenix is it technically recurring because it's in the intro in Enterprise? It's one of those things that we can definitely bend the rules on that, because technically it is technically a one-off. I guess it's only one episode, but it's in an intro and other intros. It's
Yeah, you can make a case that it's in all 98 episodes of Enterprise, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
would make it recurring.
Yeah.
But because it's only in the credit sequence and it's just a
Yeah.
lift
Yeah.
of a shot from the movie it's in, I was able to twist myself
Justify that.
into doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. But that's a really strong point. Interesting. Yeah. So you already reveal your number 6, like your strong number 6? What's your biggest?
No, I didn't. One of the couple, maybe six or seven, the divorce ships. They're kind of big and
Yeah.
like they look kind of scaly. I like those. The uh, is the Galileo technically just one episode?
Nah. Well, that shuttle. If you're gonna get really specific and say it's just that shuttle, like the Galileo, then sure, I think it's probably only seen in the Galileo 7. It is only seen in the Galileo 7 because it blows up.
Yeah, so
That's
it's the same with the Equinox or the Nova class, right? I feel like we've seen that ship
I don't know.
Other places, maybe not.
I don't think we have.
Is it just Voyager?
The only other time that we may have seen it might have been
Battle on Deep Space Nine.
No, because it's introduced pretty much after Deep Space Nine's done. The Equinox premiered like right around the same time as the finale for Deep Space Nine. So I think the only time that we maybe saw another Nova class ship might have been in those last moments of Endgame, like when Voyager's pulling up to Earth. If there's like a little Nova class in that montage of ships. In that fleet, escorting Voyager back home. But beyond that, and I'm not even sure that's there. I have a feeling that Equinox might be the only time you see a Nova class ship.
Nova class.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So I think that's fair. The one
the Galileo is a technical, I guess, a asterisk next to it. Yeah, because you're right. The shuttle has been used multiple times in TOS. So, yeah,
and I guess it's all the way you look at it. Like you're right on the Stargazer, which you guessed for me, which I love. We only see the Stargazer the one time in the battle, but that class of ship, like the Constellation class, does get used a good bit. We see the Hathaway and Peak Performance. It's not totally uncommon to see that design. So I guess it just depends on. Are you talking about the class? If you're talking about the class, then I guess that class would be like a recurring.
No, I'm talking specifics.
The specific vessel.
Stargazer, which I tried to like. That was a point in history that ship has some weight to it. That's got some history behind it. Yeah,
for sure. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff on your list that was really, really tough for me to cut. The Planet Killer, the Doomsday Machine was a really, really, that along with the Viserius. If I was thinking TOS and I wanted to put like big iconic things from the original series, they loomed large, both of them, and I ended up going with Viserius because of how early in the show it was and that iconic shot of it approaching the Enterprise. But the Planet Killer is amazing, and the Krenim Time ship, Anarax's ship from Year of Hell, was my number 6. That's the one that I cut at the very last second, and I felt terrible about it. And I feel like it belongs there because I've always loved that. I love that episode so much. It's so a formidable adversary for Voyager, for Janeway. It's so much more powerful than Voyager can really ever be. And it's historically significant. I mean, it's not really because it's been rebooted. The reset button was hit, so nobody remembers it in universe. But it wreaked some serious havoc for in its time. And it's a significant episode of Star Trek. I mean, it's a big milestone moment in Voyager and in Trek overall, I think. So that was a really tough cut. Anything stand out to you? Just kind of looking at the full list, just kind of popping out at you as
Um,
worthy of discussion?
yeah, the jellyfish ship I didn't want to go with because I had mentioned
You did. I
that.
have
Like, I
feeling.
really do like that ship. And it's a really like iconic and memorable ship. It's cool. I like the rotational aspect of it. But yeah, that's probably maybe in my top 10 for sure. Um, yeah, all good things. AKA Mamel's dropping
Yeah, her list
some
is.
pretty good ships.
Yep. We have mentioned that you gave a lot of thought to the Narada. Didn't think of the
Yeah,
Prometheus, and that's a good choice. The Devore Imperial vessel from Counterpoint, which you mentioned as a
I
honorable
love that
mention.
ship.
It's a
For
that's a
ships. Yeah,
that's a very cool design. Really imposing. Great
yeah,
episode it
big and
comes
menacing.
from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
A Kelvin timeline choice with the USS Vengeance from Into Darkness. The fact that the most
yeah.
advanced ship in the fleet and can be operated by one person is insane. That's
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that ship.
I gave it some thought. It was one that there are things in Into Darkness that I really like with the Vengeance. That
Yeah,
shot, the visual effect shot of the Vengeance kind of catching up to the Enterprise and warp,
yeah.
is a memorable moment for that movie.
Mhm.
The three nacelle Enterprise D from All Good Things is
Really
kind of
cool.
alluding to.
Yeah,
Yep, the
it's
refit.
technically a one-off, but is the technically the same ship, but it's technically a one-off. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Shinzon Scimitar from Nemesis.
Mm,
The next gen crew is going to have their hands full with it because of the score when it's introduced for sure. Yeah, the Scimitar is imposing too. It's
yeah,
another big bad from the
yeah.
movies. And the Breen warship from DS9 season 7,
Oh yeah,
which we get to see in some of the battle sequences in that late run of DS9. And yeah, the Dominion War, there are some cool designs that you could go with from the different species that I think you
yeah,
could call maybe one-offs as well.
yeah,
And that is a cool deep cut choice.
yeah.
Um, yes. What else on this list? Anything else stand out to me?
A few other things, a few other ships that I feel like are worth mentioning.
Sure.
The Romulan like drone ship from Enterprise. I just really think of that
Oh
as like a
yeah,
little flea, little annoying thing.
yeah.
I really like that. Um,
Didn't think of it. That's a great choice.
yeah. But I like that ship because it feels like something that would come out of the Romulan Empire. Like I feel like it does kind of right up their alley. Um,
Hmm.
there was it Friendship One or something like that from Voyager as well.
Hmm.
Um,
It's an old
that
probe
was a old
from Earth.
probe,
Yep.
older looking, kind of similar to the Phoenix in that way,
Yep.
but uh,
I liked from Voyager a design aesthetic that I'm not typically huge on, and I guess you could call it a one-off. It's almost I don't even know what it is would actually be categorized. I was one of the episodes that the Delta Flyers podcast talked about in like recent weeks was Marauders, the sort of Seska Chakotay
oh yeah,
drama, and
yeah,
that episode opens very early on. There's a big battle sequence with the Kazon, and the Kazon use
Mhm.
this like I think they might call it like a raptor or something. It kamikazes the target, so Voyager breaches the hull, and out come Kazon dudes to
yeah. Oh yeah, that's
come
cool.
into
It's
the
kind of
ship.
like the Hive, those Hive
Yeah,
ships.
exactly. Similar
Uh,
concept. Yeah,
yeah,
they breach the hull and out come the guys to
yeah,
kind of invade the ship, and that was a unique idea at the time and different and scary. I always remember the Kazon ship kind of like targeting its phasers very pinpointly at a point
yeah,
so that this little ship could fly through a breach in the shields and then hit the hull and uh,
yeah,
board Voyager. That's a cool idea. Different predates the more like big example of that, which would be in Beyond in a movie with the same
yeah.
kind of idea. So that's like a deeper cut, and I really like the Voth City ship, the huge Voth ship in
yeah.
Distant Origin. That's another like really
Yeah.
big design where Voyager like gets beamed into it, and it's just kind of floating in the middle of this ginormous ship where like this entire society basically lives. That impressed me back in the day, and has always remained kind of a cool idea. And I feel like we have like a good mix of that. We have stuff like the Narada and
which, now that I think about it, is
Sirius.
almost like a rebranded Doomsday Machine a little bit, but
sort of, yeah. And the Doomsday Machine, Planet Killer, these ginormous, huge things. But then we have the Bajoran Solar Sailor, which is like the smallest, most simple. Like we didn't just go with the big
we got
heads.
the range,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we did a good job of mixing in, the one-off Federation designs and the different alien species kinds of ideas as well. It's not just Starfleet ships. I'm glad we were able to both do that. The Starfleet ships that we have on our actual list are not overlapping. I have the Franklin and the Titan. You have the Prometheus. Neither one of us picked the Equinox. We both guessed the Equinox, but it didn't make either of our lists.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was funny. Yeah. I do really like that ship, the Nova class. It's kind of small and compact, and I think that would be definitely kind of a progression that you'd see in Starfleet. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this was a fun topic. I really want to put it under each show under the microscope, because I feel like there's a lot to kind of talk about now that we've kind of opened this can of worms of talking about one-off ships. But something that came to mind was one-off, like not ships, but maybe like locations. Like this is just an example, but from the episode 30 Days from Voyager, there's that kind of cool like underwater. It's not a ship, but it's like what they have to go down to fix.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that, I think, would be fun to kind of talk about.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's definitely lots of different offshoots from this. You could get more. You do environments, places to go, kind of things instead of ships. You could do, instead of boiling down to like hero ships, recurring ships, one-off ships, you could do ships that originated in TOS and ships that originated in Discovery or Voyager. And it could be anything that you see many times or once or all the time. But just kind of think about that show and the things that you see in that show, or at least began in that show, that were designed for that show. It might be I would maybe like to look at like ships from New Trek, like just kind of put Picard and Discovery into a box and think about the different things that we see in some of those shows. I think Discovery has featured, it's certainly not everybody's taste, some of those design aesthetics with like the Klingon stuff, and thinking of a couple of different things that have popped up over the course of that show, the 3 seasons now of that show. Now that we're into season 3, there's all kinds of new stuff that's kind of emerging. So down the road, maybe once there's a little bit more to look at, I think that would be cool to look, to dive into. And I continue to really like this Guess Each Other's format. I think it's such a different way to do it. It adds a different spin. It's not just a matter of, kind of sit there and come up with a top 5 list, which I love. The Trek Ranks is maybe my favorite podcast. I mean, I've been doing top 5, top 10s, top rankings my whole life, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but I like the added wrinkle of not just doing my own, but thinking about what you might do too. That's something that I've really enjoyed doing, and I want to continue to, find ways to use this concept to look at things we love from Star Trek. Anything else?
Nope, I think that'll do it. Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll wrap it up there. AKA Mamel, thank you very much for not only hanging with us, but contributing your list. Always appreciate that. Anybody else who's watching on Periscope, definitely appreciate you taking the time to do that. This will be available on YouTube, as it always is, on Tuesday at around 6 p.m. Eastern time. This will pop up there and be a part of our ensemble of episodes on the YouTube channel. So we would encourage you to go check that out. If you're watching us on Periscope now, go over to YouTube, search Trek Live. You're going to find a whole slew of episodes going back a few years now. Similar topics to this, many Guess Each Others. What have we done on Guess Each Others? We've guessed each other's favorite new Trek episodes, so we bunched all Discovery, Picard,
bridges, non-bridges,
uniforms,
uniforms,
captains,
all good stuff.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this or have been following along these last few weeks with the ship shows with this concept, you can find many more like it over on the YouTube page. And lastly, you can join our Discord server as well if you're interested in interacting with like-minded, positive Star Trek fans. Nice little tight-knit community. We occasionally we call them Trek After Darks, where we'll have not broadcasted for this or for YouTube, but private, like member discussions on video or on audio, whatever you prefer, or just typing, where everybody watches episodes together. That's in the server, hanging out. We'll play trivia. We'll just kind of casually talk Star Trek. If you're a Discord user or you're interested in becoming one, you can send me a DM on Twitter at TrekFan4387. I'll send you the link. I'll give you instructions. I'll walk you through it, get you comfortable with it. And it's a neat way to, in a more personal way than, say, Twitter or some other social media options out there, get to know some folks who love the same things you do. So let me know if you're interested in that.
Yep. So, there's this bunch of ways to stay connected. If you're kind of on the go, we definitely do have the this will be up on the podcast feed as well. But I will say that the best way to enjoy the show and be a part of it is to come here live and then be like AKA Mammal and post your list and kind of guide the discussion with us. So.
Agreed. Yeah, we definitely love to have people here for the live show, but we're totally conscious of the fact that the time slot doesn't work for everybody. It's early in the morning for some folks. It's not always convenient, but we do want to try to make it available in as many ways as possible. And now that the podcast feed's up and running, it's always a good way to catch up on what we're doing here. So again, appreciate everybody who watched, listened, live, repeat, whatever, however you found it. Thank you very much. We're not going to be back next week. We're going to take next weekend off with the Thanksgiving holiday. But we will be back the week after, first weekend in December, for more Trek Live and for Core Setting on Saturday mornings, talking about new episodes of Trek, quick reactions, reviews, recaps of our initial reactions to the new stuff as it comes out. So stay tuned on Twitter for announcements for when they'll happen and what we're talking about. And we'll see you then.
Yep. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.